Welcome back to Raw the podcast. I'm your host, Allie, founder of The Cheeky Clean, a wellness brand empowering conscious consuming. We are back on the mic. You've got your girl solo today, which, in all real rawness, wasn't the game plan. I was going to have a Cheeky King in training on to do a little cheeky debate, which we will still do soon. If you live in Cleveland or the Midwest, we've been getting slammed with crazy storms, and he was having a flooding issue at his home. So it just didn't work out timing wise today, last minute. But luckily, I had some notes on something else that I've been really wanting to talk about. I like to think of it as divine timing. And it was meant for us to have this discussion today. Coincidentally, this morning, I actually posted something in my stories about healthcare. And I've recently got health insurance with the conventional Western medical system after being out of corporate for almost 7 months now. I found that process as a small business owner to be extremely cumbersome and extremely expensive. When I first left corporate, they offered the Cobra system, which I almost fell out of my chair when I found out how much it was going to cost every month. For an individual, it was going to be similar to a luxury car lease payment. And that's just wild. So I was just going to be out here raw dogging life, which I was for a while. You guys know I do a lot of prevention and preventative health measures in my day-to-day routine, which I will talk a little bit about today alongside other options, but you just never know what can happen. And I had a couple different situations where I did have to pay out of pocket, and I started to really sit down and think about this is probably something that I need to manifest into my life, especially if I want to continue down the path of entrepreneurship, small business ownership. I have to have the same staples in place that protect me as a person to live my best life, my highest self. And that does mean being protected should something happen where I need Western medical intervention. It's really frustrating that it's so expensive in our country and so difficult, especially for individuals, to get healthcare. But instead of just jumping on that first really expensive option, I just sat with it. I shared a reel from last week's episode about manifestation and how it's less about visualizing the outcome and more about imagining yourself overcoming these challenges to continue to press on. I'm not going to lie, there were times when I was like, damn, it probably would be easier to go back to corporate and have these perks. And now I see why there is such value in being tied into a company. You really do have to overcome so much unknown when you're doing something on your own, like starting a business. But that is when we grow, when we don't just jump, when we don't just go back to the other side of the river, but instead we sit with it and we release the fear. We let go of the negative thoughts that I'm never going to be able to get this or afford this or achieve this as a small business owner, and you just let it roll. Fast forward, my close friend Jen built me the studio of my dreams at Proper Root Studio, which is where I record, and she sent me the information for her broker. And now that my business is a little bit more foundationally focused, I have a PO box for sending the supplements, and I have a studio where I'm recording at. I was able to not only work with the broker to qualify my small business, but also with Greater Cleveland COSI, which is like a small business support group. That's a government organization that really provides fantastic resources for small business owners. And I was able to get on a plan that was so much more affordable. And it's like being on a group plan without being in a group or in a company necessarily. So it has been such a blessing, even though it is still a budget that I'm planning for, and I had to pull back on some other things. It is such a gift to have the peace of mind of knowing that, okay, I'm laying down the foundation and the staples to protect myself holistically in the way that I'm living and the coverage that I have, so that hopefully this entrepreneur journey can continue to have longevity as well as my health. So I was posting about that today. And I think one of the reasons why I've posted multiple times and talked with my community about not having health insurance is because paying that much for healthcare that I find to be lacking in many ways and having quite a few deficiencies, while also not covering a whole gamut of healthcare options that can help support our bodies, was something I really struggled with. And part of me just wanted to say, fuck it, literally, and just hope for the best. But I decided to think about it, take a holistic approach like I always do, and today talk a little bit more about what value we can get out of Western, what other options we should be including alongside that Western care, and my reasons for becoming my own health advocate. I got so much response. I think of in the 5 years that I've been sharing little things on my stories on the Cheeky Cleans page, the number one recommendation that I have given over the years is who my primary care physician is. I mean, hundreds, you guys, of people have asked me for a recommendation because they feel so unheard, lost, or faithless in the person that's providing them care through the Western medical system. I am really grateful that after a lot of trial and error, I was able to find someone who supports me in a way that I do feel is less traditional. It is very much through the Western system still, but she supports my values of taking a more holistic approach and is willing to answer the questions and be communicative with me when I have other ideas or want to take a different route while keeping her training in mind. So if you need that recommendation, please shoot me a DM and I'd be happy to share it with you. But today we're going to go into the details about why becoming your own health advocate is so important and maybe one of the most valuable things that you can do for yourself and your family, and easy ways that you can navigate this. It's a powerful, powerful thing when we take our health into our own hands and start not just reacting to what comes our way, but utilizing the resources available to us to thrive and live in the best, highest version possible. So with that, welcome to Raw the podcast. Let's get into it. So when it comes to becoming your own health advocate, oftentimes it takes an experience that kind of shakes you awake to realize that the black and white systems that are in place in our country today aren't necessarily valuable to be blindly following. For me, it was a really wild journey with my parents' health that has completely awakened me. I think growing up, many of us, we just followed the norms of what Western medicine had to say. We will talk in detail about Western medicine and the value that it can provide us. But I did want to share a little bit about my experience and why I've become empowered to think a little bit differently and really become my own advocate. That came with experience. So my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2011. I was a senior in high school and I was getting ready to head off to college. It was a really strange and hard time. I'm sure anyone who's out there who has a friend or a family member who has been diagnosed with cancer, it is the epitome of the unknown. And we did what we were told by the Western medicine conventional healthcare system, which is to follow their protocol to a T. At that same time, my mom started her conventional treatment of radiation and chemotherapy. I left for college. And every time I would see my mom at college, it would be a little different. She was losing her hair, then she lost it completely. Then she started to have cognitive issues that came alongside the chemotherapy. Oftentimes, the conventional healthcare system doesn't disclose the severity of the symptoms and side effects that come with the treatments that they are providing. It's almost an all or nothing approach that we're given. And I'm here today to empower you to know that there is a more well-rounded approach to take. I am not here to say that things in conventional medicine, that there's not a place for them, because there is, but I strongly believe that the way to true health and longevity is to empower ourselves to understand why and how we can add in these other options alongside to not only decrease severity of symptoms, but also allow us to holistically heal from the root up. I read an incredible book that I would really recommend everyone taking a look at. It's called Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia. He is a fantastic resource as well on Instagram. I believe he has a podcast. He's so wise and an incredible speaker and doctor. One of the chapters starts with this quote: "There comes a time when we have to stop just pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. And I absolutely love that because I think it's a testament and an analogy to where we are today with the Western medical system. So oftentimes we are just treating symptoms or treating disease or treating injury, and we're not going upstream and seeing how can we prevent this in the first place. So my family was never told why my mom got cancer, even though cancer didn't run in our genes. And as I started to see her more and more, she beat the cancer physically by all measures of Western medical systems and, cancer free, check the box, it's gone out of her body. But 4 years later, when I returned home from school and moved back in with my parents, it was almost a slap to the face of reality with how my mom's cognitive decline had gotten so severe. The chemotherapy, the radiation, alongside her own transition out of a really purposeful work that she did to really just focusing on this treatment and shell shocking her body and mind resulted in an ultimate poisoning of her brain. And in her upper 50s, she was being diagnosed with early onset dementia or frontal lobe dementia. And none of the doctors were relating the two together. Instead of saying, this is a side effect of the chemotherapy and radiation, we were just told that my mom's brain was going and it just is what it is. And we were sent to a neurologist, and it was a really long few years after that of trying to help my mom get the help that she needed. Meanwhile, in parallel to this experience, my dad was diagnosed with bladder cancer, and it spread to his lymph nodes, and he had an opposite dynamic. He saw the way that the chemotherapy affected my mom cognitively. And so he really focused on reading, writing, playing music. He would be literally doing gigs at the local coffee shop, playing his guitar, my friends and I would go to before we would go out, all throughout his treatments. And it was his way of keeping his brain sharp while going through the process until eventually, physically, his body could not take one more round of chemotherapy. He became weak and frail, not able to eat, and just couldn't do it. And his body gave out physically. So my parents had these two completely polar opposite reactions to the cure and the treatment that they were given in the healthcare system for cancer. We were never given any options on diets or ways to starve cancer cells naturally, or things that would not have adverse reactions with chemotherapy, or how to live lifestyle-wise while going through the process, and how to keep your mind sharp, how to keep your body sharp, what to do naturally to keep strength both cognitively and mentally. It was more just, this is what you do. Good luck surviving it. And after my dad passed away, it was a really wild road with trying to find the care that my mom needed. By that point, she was really confused, and I'm in my early 20s, starting my corporate career, trying to figure out how to take care of myself in my own right as an adult, and also try to work with my brother and figure out how we can take care of our mom, who basically had reverted mentally back to a child. And there were days when she didn't even know who I was. I remember leaving and moving out of my house to get an apartment, like condo kind of thing, just to try to, find some sense of normalcy. And this was actually when my dad was still alive. And she was beside herself because I was taking the other Allie's things. She was so confused. And for anyone who has had a family member with any sort of brain injury, Alzheimer's, dementia, there is nothing harder, in my opinion, than looking in your parent or friend or sibling's eyes and not seeing. And she couldn't see me, but she had all of these emotions, and physically, like, she was still in her young 60s and she wanted to go drive her car, go on a walk, go do whatever she wanted. And so it became really difficult to take care of her, almost as if it was like a role reversal between us. And I actually would find light and levity in it when we would hang out together. I remember Snapchat kind of became a thing, and I would post stories to my friends about like us two as a dynamic duo. Literally the blind leading the blind. I would be at the grocery store with her, and I have this hilarious memory of when there's like sample spots, I left her side for 1 second and went to go grab a couple other things. And I turn around and she had brought me the entire sample tray. She just dipped out with the sample tray, and I'm like taking it back. I'm like, I'm so sorry. My mom's confused, but like we're so cute. And as sad as it was that my mom was not my mom when I lost her, I really do think back and try to laugh at those moments and just be grateful that I did have the time to spend with her that I did in those last few years. The hard part and the sad part is that it got worse with the treatment we were being given. We were going to neurologists. They were prescribing so many medications. My mom gained so much weight. She was the most petite person her entire life. They were giving her these steroids, these medications, these mental things, these antipsychotics, anti-anxiety, like doing all of these things to try to change her and keep her sedative and still, instead of help rewire her cognition to try and heal from ultimately what poisoned her brain, which is the chemotherapy. And they would pass us from doctor to doctor. And, oh, this one is a frontal lobe specialist. And this one is a brain specialist. And, oh, we're not even seeing the cancer doctor anymore because you don't have cancer anymore. And none of them would speak to each other. All of them would prescribe medications. I remember sitting in those appointments just feeling so helpless. The in-home care was such a nightmare. By the way, in-home or long-term care in general is a complete crime in this country. The amount of money that it costs to have quality care for your aging parents is wild. It's something that we have to open up the conversation on because more and more of the boomers are getting to that age where they are going to need this care. It was the hardest thing to find people that we could trust to stay in our home. I'll never forget being at my work Christmas party and getting a call from my brother that her caregiver took her to the bank and had my mom take money out and she was stealing from my mom. And I had another caregiver say, like, take all your mom's jewelry, like, you can't trust these other people. And these were through like government resources. These were not cheap options. Like, we were doing the best that we could. I wish that I knew what I knew now and I was mature enough to just bring my mom under my wing and I didn't have a job and I could just take care of her 24/7. But at the time, that wasn't the case. And my brother had two and a third child on the way and a family too. And we were just really struggling with finding care. And eventually, we made the really hard decision to put her into a home. And that's when really it all went downhill. And yeah, my mom was really basically pumped with medication until she wasn't herself and then passed away way too young. The whole situation haunts me, to be honest with you. It is a real reason why I taken the first ticket out of here to California. I knew that my mom's life when she got into that facility was it was almost like a death sentence. And there was nothing that we could do or I could do at the time to reverse it or to stop that train from going down the tracks. And I squeezed my mom so tight that last time I hugged her before I moved to California, and I stared in her eyes and I cried and I kissed her, and I knew that that was the last time I would see her. And 2 months later, after moving, she had passed away. And I find it to be such an injustice. But now, knowing what I know, it has been the fuel and the purpose behind everything that I do. I want to share my mom's story. I want to share my dad's story. I want to talk about what my family went through and how helpless and hopeless and limited resources we had, because that's the reason why I've changed my complete lifestyle and consume intentionally and consciously. Everything from the food I'm putting in my body to the healthcare that I'm choosing to invest in. And I want to try and help other families that are not only going through tough diagnoses, but also those who haven't yet, to try and prevent this from happening to their family. And the turning point for me was when I got the BRCA gene test and it came back negative, which meant that I was not carrying the gene for cancer. I remember sending a Snapchat to my friends and being like, going in to find out if I'm cursed or not. And it was negative, and it was as if this like light opened up for me. And I'm like, I am going to live different. I'm going to figure out what I can do to never invite this cancer into my body so that I can have a potential longer, lighter, and healthier life in my parents' honor. And that turned into small changes in my daily routine, as we've talked about before. And every single time I made a shift, a small change in a habit that would be healthier for me and provide prevention and longevity, it was as if I was empowered to take over the world. And I felt like, wow, I've been open, like this new space in my mind has been cracked open and I know more and I'm going to live better. And knowledge is power became the fuel behind starting the page, The Cheeky Clean. That alongside with really starting to get deep into the chemical industry and understand how deeply intricate these systems are woven in our countries to not serve us as consumers and as individual beings, and how important it is that we take our power back. Becoming your own health advocate is the best thing you can do for longevity. And I hope that my mom's story, my dad's story, it's not here to be a sob story. Honestly, I don't talk about it all that much, but I think context makes sense because it's my why, it's my purpose, and it's my fuel. And I feel every day when I give one little recommendation or a primary care physician or ways to choose better options in the grocery store or ways that you can look at prevention from a long-term standpoint, if I can help one person in her honor, it is worth the weight of the world. And she's here with me. My angels are powerful as hell. And we're going to help you make some more well-rounded decisions to advocate for yourself and your health. Western medicine is not all bad, as I said before. It is also called conventional medicine or orthodox medicine. It's a system in which medical doctors and other healthcare professionals treat symptoms and disease using drugs, radiation, surgery, and it relies on scientific research and is particularly effective in treating acute problems that require an immediate response. A broken leg, bacterial infection, lung collapsed, a car accident. These types of accidents, issues, acute immediate response needs are where our conventional medical system thrives. It is technology and science-backed information that does allow us to, in those times of need for things we can't plan for, potentially be saved. And it is why I've decided to invest in an insurance plan, because who knows what's going to happen on a random Thursday afternoon. And I don't want to worry about that. And I also know that our healthcare system is at the highest it's ever been price-wise. It will bury someone to have to pay out of pocket to manage an acute, immediate need when it arises if they are not insured. So for someone who doesn't wholeheartedly trust these systems and knows the deficiencies, I knew that I had to protect myself. And so waiting and finding the right plan that worked for me was exactly what I needed to do. And it is one tool in my toolbox for holistic health. The evidence-based approach to diagnose and treat, while powerful, rarely focuses on prevention. And it goes back to that quote that I mentioned earlier. We have got to go upstream and start pulling people out of the river instead of just saving them after they've fallen in. When it comes to finding a primary care physician, it's really important to ask questions. Think of your primary care physician as someone who is your advocate. They're your resource to this wild world of the Western medical system. They are not here to pressure you into doing anything that doesn't work for you. And remember that they are paid by pharmaceutical companies, and it is within doctors' best interests in most cases to prescribe medication in order to meet their quotas and get the services that they need to provide. It is a very backward system that really encourages pharmaceutical use in our country, and it's important to be very cognizant of that when you're going in for a doctor's appointment or to treat anything, because that will be their first line of fire is, here, take this. But you can ask questions and you can do things differently. Some things that I would recommend: trusting your intuition. We've talked a lot about how to get back to your intuition in prior episodes. Definitely go back and continue to listen to those, because without that connection with our soul's self, we will just follow what we're being told. I was so young and so disconnected from my soul's self that I was just taking what these doctors were saying to do for my mom and dad as Bible instead of listening to my gut, which told me this cannot be right. There has to be a different option. This isn't it. Now I know, and now I'm going to learn differently for the way that I approach my own medical care and health. When it comes to medicine, you have to ask why. And you also need to do your own research on natural options. There are a plethora of herbal and natural and homeopathic options that will do the same, if not more, than many of the pharmaceutical drugs on the market without the side effects and the symptoms. It's also really important to ask about, what can I expect with these side effects and symptoms? What can I do to mitigate these side effects and symptoms? Will this work if I'm not also changing these other things in my life? Or a better way to word it would be, what else in my life should I be changing while taking this medication in order to have the best outcome? The next most important question is to ask, why do I even have this in the first place? What caused this? What can I do in my lifestyle and in my routine to prevent this in the future, or to prevent one of my family members from getting this? It is so important to utilize the technology that we have at our fingertips as consumers now. ChatGPT, Google, books. Do your research and look up whatever symptoms you're having and start to take notes and understand, okay, like, here are some natural things that could maybe be an option. Here's what I think I could do and try. Here are some lifestyle shifts. Take those notes into your doctor when you go and meet with them and bounce them off them. If they immediately dismiss you, that's a red flag to look for a new one. There are doctors out there who want to support your care. It is difficult, and they probably will still recommend medication, but they will listen and they will help you navigate holistic options that are also available too. They will also understand the fact that medication only works well when it is paired with lifestyle shifts. So if you are being dismissed by your doctor for wanting to discuss holistic options and lifestyle shifts alongside the medication they're recommending, run for the hills. It's taken me a long time to find a doctor that I like, and I have found one. In my experience, nurse practitioners have been a much better fit for me. I've found them to be more open-minded when it comes to the holistic approach. The doctor that I go to is a woman, and she's a little younger, and she's of a generation where she realizes that there are other things that we can do for our bodies than just take medication. And she doesn't force feed medication to me. She listens to me. She communicates with me. She'll respond back when I send her a message asking a question. And these are all green flags in working with a doctor. Is she the only Bible care that I'm taking? Absolutely not. I have a bunch of other options and things that I'm doing to make sure that I am getting a well-rounded view of my own body and my own health. We have to realize that doctors are only as good as the training that they've been given, and they are not trained on prevention. They're trained on treating. Oftentimes, prevention comes from our own research and utilizing other healthcare professionals that are more focused on prevention. Luckily, we live in an age where prevention is becoming something that people are realizing is super important. And so there are more and more options. A couple of those options that I want to bring your attention to would be functional medicine. Functional medicine takes a much more holistic approach at the body. It is more root cause and prevention focused. It is absolutely incredible. If you can find a functional medicine primary care physician, always start there. The difficult part is, especially if you live in a smaller city like Cleveland, it is really hard to get in most often, and sometimes they're not covered by insurance. There are options through in Cleveland Clinic if you're here local. Dr. Mark Hyman, who is an incredible research for total health, longevity, and full holistic care. He is such a great follow. He's written books. He's got a podcast. He's so badass. He actually started the functional medicine clinic at the Cleveland Clinic, and it's backed by him, and there are some really incredible doctors there. The tricky part is it's hard to get in. What I find wild, just while we're being raw, is that the Cleveland Clinic can have a whole department focused on functional medicine because they realize how important it is, but yet the normal options for primary care physicians aren't looking at functional medicine. What does this mean? This means that things like your gut microbiome, allergy testing, hormone testing, these types of integral systems in our bodies that really cause a lot of the issues that we're experiencing, immunity, autoimmune issues, are not being tested for, looked at, or treated for in regular healthcare system. If you're a woman who's ever had hormone issues, you know that your primary care physician, in the blood work that they're giving you, it doesn't even test for thyroid. So you can be told that your blood work's perfect, and meanwhile you're suffering from PCOS, and you can't even call and get in with the PCOS or the thyroid specialists without the recommendation from your primary care, who's never going to think you have an issue because the blood work that's standard won't test for it. So it's a tangled ass web. Those communication gaps in conventional medicine are probably one of the largest deficiencies. There are so many specialists that do not communicate between each other that you're getting such a wide variety if you can even get in the first place. So one doctor that's really taking a holistic approach from a functional medicine standpoint, identifying your biomarkers and making recommendations for how to prevent and heal your body from the inside out, along with lifestyle changes, is so key. It's the future of Western medicine. So if you can't get in with Cleveland Clinic and you are willing to pay for it, most of the functional medicine doctors that are not associated with one of the larger hospitals that I'm aware of in Cleveland are not covered by insurance. So it is an investment. But if you're having issues and you feel like you're not getting the care that you need, it may be worth it. There is a space called Great Lakes Health and Wellness that is a really fantastic resource. I did a panel once with Dr. Madison, who is a practitioner there. I have a couple friends that go to her. I would highly recommend her. Maybe we'll have her on the podcast one day. That would be really cool. Putting that out into the universe. I was really impressed with her on our panel, and I really like her content and the way that she approaches health and wellness. I've also noticed that many of the supplements that she's been prescribing are quite cheeky, so we stand. There's also it's called Aurelia, I'm not sure if I'm saying that properly, Health, which is a perimenopause and menopause care system. It is by NP and hormone specialist Emily Sadri. She's another one that I'm manifesting that we could get on the podcast one day. I think it's important to start talking more about things in detail, like functional medicine and like perimenopause and menopause, because so many are suffering without answers from the normal traditional roots. And these people, these doctors, have made it their life's work to learn the science and the protocol and the holistic ways to manage, treat, and prevent these very real things that we're dealing with. There's also a space called Forum, which was brought to my attention recently, Dr. Tara Scott, which looks very integrative as well. And wellness spaces for longevity technology. You guys know I'm a fan of these locally. There are a lot of really cool machines and tools and things, from IVs, ozone therapy, red light therapy, ozone saunas, hyperbaric chamber, things that are not FDA approved. So technically these big hospital systems can't promote and include them in their treatment, but they are scientifically backed to support longevity, healing, biomarker improvement. I mean, everything. And you can have access to those at wellness centers like Live, the wellness space, and Root Cause Integrated Health. Root Cause is actually also doing they've purchased a Kangen water machine, which we've talked about in episode maybe 3 that was, how important it is to have healing water. They're offering it there for people who don't want to buy the machine, but want to do a subscription and can pick up water sharing from their location, which is really cool. I really love the owners of that space. They're doing so much for our community, and their options for healing, health, and prevention is really incredible. So definitely check them out. So those are kind of the Western traditional medicine approaches that I would take. I would lead with it being one tool in your toolbox. I would find a way to make insurance feasible for you financially, and I would never be pressured into doing something like taking medication or having a sentence like cancer without also looking into the other supplemental options that are available to you to help healing. Because in my opinion, when you can merge all the worlds of healing together, that's when you have such a powerful force of really overcoming the odds and finding true healing. Eastern medicine is the opposite of Western medicine. Eastern medicine is a system used for thousands of years thousands to prevent, diagnose, and treat disease. It actually predates Western medicine by hundreds, if not thousands of years, you guys, and is still practiced today in many countries around the planet. It entails looking at the whole picture of a person's mental, physical, and emotional and spiritual health to identify what's causing problems and provide treatment that removes barriers to healing and recovery. What I love about it is it's a trust that by treating the cause, the body will heal itself. It is taking into account all of the things that Western medicine or conventional medicine is not. And there are a couple different tools that are norms or used within the Eastern medicine treatment options that are available to us today, or that I would recommend taking a look into in your own life. One would be Ayurveda. We talked a little bit about Ayurveda in the past. I'm just like thinking of all these people I want on the podcast, but Shilpika, who runs the Ayurveda Wellness House in Lakewood, Ohio, is a Ayurvedic doctor from India who moved to the States and is practicing here. She is a wealth of knowledge. On my birthday this past year, I went to a yoga and healing dinner at their beautiful space, and I was just blown away. I do still need to do a protocol with her. She does full detoxification based on your body type, your energy type, and what you're looking to achieve. And it is basically diet, herbal therapy, and protocol to heal your body from the inside out naturally. It is really powerful and has been used for 5,000 years in India. It's kind of like the sister science to yoga. They do also look at the holistic way of treating the body, which does include the mind. So yoga and meditation is part of Eastern medicine when it comes to really honing in on that cognitive and that emotional cure that can help then the body heal. Acupuncture is another tool for Eastern medicine that has started to become popular here in the States. I really like Acupuncture First, which is in Tremont. It's a fantastic, really calming space that offers many different treatment options. What acupuncture is placing thin needles in specific points on the body to ultimately restore the flow of energy and alleviate symptoms and promote prevention. The chakras and the energy internally is such a powerful energy itself should be a sixth sense because it is so powerful to our overall healing and ability to thrive. And acupuncture is really the medicine for that energy. It's becoming less and less of a woo-woo medical option. I think even some insurance may cover it. They may even offer some acupuncture within the regular medical systems at this point. So definitely look into that in your network or budget it in for quarterly, or if you're having these issues and you're not getting the support that you need, look at it as a tool, as an option. Cupping therapy is similar to acupuncture in theory. It's finding pressure points and releasing energy, stagnant energy, stuck spaces. Thai massage and lymph massage are two other tools to getting these systems moving. It is ultimately a detoxification process of not only stuck energy, but also toxins in general moving through our body that allows then healing foods and nutrients and all of the fuel that we're putting in our body to actually flow through and be absorbed, be utilized. So often we're taking this medication, but our energy is so stuck that the medication isn't even going to work. So, and lymph massage is really valuable for prevention and overall well-being. I also want to talk about some resources that have really helped me to learn. I think becoming your own advocate starts with the interest and the understanding that one way will never cure us. There are multiple routes to take, and sometimes it's the culmination of those routes that's really going to allow us to bloom into our best, most healed self. And I want to encourage you and empower you to not wait until you're diagnosed with a sickness, to not wait until the chemotherapy ruins your family. Take matters into your own hands and start to learn now, and you will be so surprised by how powerful powerful that becomes. Some of the books that have really changed my life when it comes to healing resources that I would recommend having in your arsenal. Again, you don't need to have all of these, but I want to recommend a few that kind of cover what most people may be dealing with issue-wise. So when it comes to women's health and hormones, Alisa Vitti, VITI, is a life-changing author. I've recommended In the Flow to so many women over the years. I also have a hormone highlight. When I was married, I went off birth control against my doctor at the time's will. They told me if you go off birth control, you're going to have a full face of acne and you're going to be crazy for your wedding. You're going to gain weight. Your wedding dress won't fit. I mean, these are things that they literally told me. I found it to be the complete opposite. I was actually very depressed when I was on birth control. It completely fucked with my insides, body, mind, and soul. And I want to empower women to, while yes, it's a blessing that we have the access to control when we want to have children, but what I think is an even bigger blessing is to understand how our bodies really actually work and not suppress our period from a chemical pill, but instead to understand what your cycle looks like, how you can align your body, everything from your physical workouts to what you're eating to your emotional health with your cycle, and take your power back. We have 4 days out of a month when we can get pregnant, and we are taking a chemical pill that is ruining our brains and bodies for so many years when we have options. So In the Flow is so badass. When I tell you guys, physically, if you are having any symptoms before your period, even emotionally, there is something off internally that can be prevented by lifestyle, supplementation, and food. And that book will empower you to not only get in tune with your cycle, but to make choices that make you feel your best, highest self. Women's Code is another one written by her, which is so incredible. And I don't know if I finished, but I was saying on my Instagram, check my hormone highlight, because when I did go off birth control, I documented the whole process and I posted a lot about different tools to detox the body from estrogen and how to really get your body in a natural rhythm and a natural cycle after being on it for decades. So go take a look at that. You'll be so surprised by how many women, I actually have it on one slide, how many people have said going off is the best thing that they ever did for their body. Outlive by Peter Attia. I already mentioned that one. The Longevity Diet by Walter Longo, PhD. Fantastic book. It's kind of like the science for disease prevention. Talks a lot about anti-inflammation and things to do to remove inflammation from the body and mind, which ultimately causes most disease. The Real Food Revolution by Tim Ryan, as well as Food Lies by the Food Babe. Those are two that really just help you think differently when it comes to the systems in place and where our food is coming from. I've mentioned them before when it comes to sourcing. Those aren't necessarily medical type books, but it's more about the fuel that we're putting in our body, and they're really good staples to have. The Book of Lymph by Lisa Levitt Ainsley is where I started to learn about how the lymph system, which is a system that conventional medicine doesn't take into account, is so powerful for our overall health and longevity and disease prevention, and how so often cancer metastasizes in stuck lymph spaces. So learning how to really release that lymphatic system is going to help incredibly, whether you've been diagnosed with a disease or you want to prevent disease. And lastly would be How to Starve Cancer by Jane McClelland. I read this far too long after my parents passed away, but it is utilizing low toxic medication and medical options and protocols that are holistic and more natural focused to starve the cancer out of your body and heal from the inside out. Probably the most profound follower that I've ever had. Her name was Ashley, and we connected early on in my blogging because she had been diagnosed and found my page, and I was talking a lot about trying to prevent it myself, and she put her whole soul into trying to find a way that would work for her, and she ended up passing away, but I learned so much from her, and I think about her so often when it comes to recommendations I'm making and books that have really changed my life from a prevention standpoint. She always used to say, like, I wish I would have known this earlier. Imagine where I would be had I started learning this years ago, and it was all because of her own determination to try to be here longer for her son. But her legacy that lives on, that has been left with me and others that she's touched to think differently, is so powerful. And that book was actually recommended by her. So it is one that everyone should be reading far before they're diagnosed, and hopefully it will reduce the number of diagnoses. Prevention is so key, you guys. It's why I do what I do, why my daily routine is what it is. It's so I can learn more, live better, heal from the inside out, and avoid some of these really tragic fates. Always say body, mind, and soul. Another way to say it is physical, cognitive, and emotional. These are the core tenets of health that we need to be taking into consideration. The RX for living better, feeling better, and prescribing yourself longevity. They are physical, cognitive, and emotional factors, things that you can do and change and shift in your daily routine to empower yourself. It's like medicine for your body and mind. All three of these pillars, physical, cognitive, and emotional, are imperative to your overall health and well-being. It doesn't matter what medication you're being prescribed. If you're not considering these options, you are never going to achieve the desired results that you're looking for or the healing that you so deserve. When it comes to physical, this includes exercise, diet, real food, recovery, and detoxing. I read a stat that people who have a healthy nutrition and a balanced focus on what they're eating nutritionally, who are fueling their bodies properly, and who are exercising on a consistent basis, live up to 14 times longer than those who are not. 14 times, guys, 14 years longer is a really powerful number. That's the difference in meeting your grandkids or not. It is really badass to know that by doing these things that maybe we don't always want to do, maybe it's easier to just like pop in that TV dinner. Maybe it's easier to just chill on the couch and watch your show instead of go on a walk and lift some weights. You're doing it for your health. You're doing it for the future generations. You're doing it to prevent disease. And that is medicine. It's so cool. And the more you do it, the better you feel. Included detox, because you guys know that we are living in a world that we are so prone to sickness. We're so prone to chemicals and an environment that is manufactured and processed, and toxins that are just riddled in the air. And it is so hard to avoid them completely. But a detox routine actually allows you to remove them from your body and overcome these toxins that exist. So it's everything from sauna to lymph therapy. If you don't want to get a lymphatic drainage massage, as Lisa mentioned on the podcast last week, jump on a trampoline, do a foam roller, release that fascia to get energy moving through your body. These are things that are going to remove toxins from the inside out and allow yourself to live at its highest self. It's so powerful, especially when we're living in a world with so many scaries, as I call them. When it comes to cognitive, it's a very interesting thing to know that 94% of people who walk in a Western medical facility with a disease or an issue relating to disease, it's caused by stress. 94%. So when I look back and think, how did my parents get sick? How could I have prevented this? Chances are it might have been a cognitive issue. It might have been overstressed, overburdened lifestyle mixed with any of these other factors, all stuff that can be prevented by shifting your lifestyle choices. Things that you can do to relieve stress, you know what they are. Do them. Find ways and find a creative outlet. Take that walk every day. Turn those lights down at night so your cortisol isn't being spiked. Take supplements like magnesium, like B vitamins, like C vitamins, like creatine that actually help reduce oxidative stress from the inside out. Get a plentiful protein-based diet that allows you to stay grounded. Eat in a way that is in alignment with energetic sources that aren't stressed. These are powerful things. Sleep. Easiest and most important medicine that you'll ever get is sleep. If you have trouble, start by getting off your phone early in the night. Like 8 p.m., put that shit away. You don't need to be on it. It's just spiking your cortisol. And read a book. Read one of the books that I've recommended here today and find your zen and your peace and start to try to go to bed at a consistent time every night, ideally in alignment with the natural rhythm of the sun if possible, and wake up at the same time every day. From a self-proclaimed night owl I'm telling you guys, if I can go to bed at 9 p.m. and get my ass up at 5 a.m., anyone can do it. And now my body appreciates and likes it. And I've come to love mornings. So sleep is so powerful. Alcohol reduction, narcotic reduction. I don't think I'll ever drink again, if not for the number one reason that my sleep has never been better. It is so good, you guys, when you aren't consuming sugar and alcohol late in the evening or at all, how good you'll sleep. Lastly is emotional. As I always say, it's a body, mind, and soul approach, and our emotional health is so important to our overall health and longevity. And there are things like purpose and having a job that's in alignment with you, or volunteering or doing something that's helping you feel like you're being lit up from the inside out, your creativity. These are things that help improve your emotional health. Connection. It can be isolating when you start to go down a holistic path, because for me, it felt like the norm and all of my friends were thinking I was crazy. But I will tell you, when you start to shift the way that you live and your lifestyle, you will start to align with people who also live that lifestyle. And you'll find friends to go on walks with, and you'll find people who want to grab mocktails instead of alcoholic beverages, and you'll find yourself in a book club. These are all really cool ways to still build that human connection that's so important for our overall emotional health. Finding peace for yourself, doing things like yoga and meditation to really calm your mind down is so important. And therapy is possible for everyone, especially if you're in a insurance network. I was blown away to find that there are therapists, everything from EMDR to hypnotherapy. There are a lot of options that are covered by insurance or that are worth paying for. There are resources and tools available to you. And you can feel in your body when you're in a place where you really need some additional support. It's okay to take it. And in fact, it's medicine to take it. I hope this episode today helped you become empowered to think differently and to learn more and live better. So often we live in a world of mass information, but we're not always willing to take it and apply it and learn from it. I wanted to read a quote from The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, a book that's in the studio, to kind of close out the episode today that I thought was really cool. It says, "Uncertainty is the root of all progress and growth. As the old adage goes, we cannot learn anything without first knowing something. The more we admit we do not know, the more opportunities we gain to learn." And with that, I want to give my old self some love and forgive her for not knowing then what I know now, and use my family's experience as a way to not only empower myself to make different decisions and learn more to live better, but help share resources and empower the community to take their health into their own hands with the daily conscious choices that we make, whether that's what you're eating, whether that's how you're living, whether that's what's speaking to your soul, or whether that's advocating for yourself and the healthcare that's being provided to you. Knowledge is power. And it is so refreshing and my honor to share it with you guys today. If you liked this episode and found it helpful, please leave a 5-star review, like and subscribe on YouTube. Come and follow me at The Cheeky Clean on Instagram. I share on my stories every day the daily medicine that I'm doing to prevent disease, live longer, healthier, happier. It's where I connect with the community. I would love to hear from you and learn what you're doing to live lighter. If you're looking for clean recommendations of products that are Cheeky approved, you can shop at the link that I'll put in the show notes to my shop. And for more resources, prior podcast episodes, and to go deeper with me, come to thecheekyclean.com. As always, guys, it is my honor to live and grow and learn with you all. We're a powerful force when we're conscious consumers and when we stay intentional. And that's really cool. And with that, I'll see you next week. All my love, cheeks.